My dad once told me that having a kid work as a restaurant server was downright disgraceful. He said that to my face while I was literally serving food at the party celebrating my brother's big promotion. And honestly, it wasn't just him. The rest of the family stared at me with the same smug, pitying look like I'd somehow failed at life. But then something unexpected happened. A moment that flipped everything and finally exposed the truth about who I really was. That's when the apologies started rolling in like they suddenly woke up. But me? I'd already made up my mind. And now I want to share what happened. You tell me, was I wrong for cutting off my family after everything? Hi there, I'm Marcus. I'm 35 years old and I own a chain of upscale 5-star restaurants right here in New York City. If you met me now, you'd probably assume I come from a warm, supportive family that's proud of everything I've achieved. You'd think they cheered me on as I built a successful business from scratch. But that couldn't be further from the truth. My family has never respected the work I do. For years, they've treated my career like it's some bottom-of-the-barrel job that's beneath them. It's not because I haven't succeeded, it's because they've never cared enough to ask what I really do. In their heads, I'm still that server scraping by on $2,000 a month with no suit, no house, and nothing to show for myself. Every time I went back to visit, instead of pride, I was met with cold shoulders and judgmental eyes. To them, the golden child has always been my older brother, Trevor. He's 7 years ahead of me, works for some big-time financial firm, rakes in the cash, and gets praised for every little thing he does. And me? I could build an empire and they'd still see me as the one who didn't measure up. Even though they leave me off the guest list for major family events, I still send them a few thousand here and there. I kept trying to hold on to that connection even though it was one-sided. They never truly saw me, just their version of me. Growing up, it didn't feel that way. Back then, it seemed like my parents treated Trevor and me the same. We both got their attention. They always told us we were equally important, equally loved. But all of that shifted about 8 years ago. One small moment flipped the whole dynamic, and things were never the same after. I was 29 back then. At the time, I had a steady job in finance, pulling in $176,000 a year, something most people would dream of. I was genuinely proud of myself. Life wasn't flashy, but it was solid. I had enough to live comfortably, and I was content with that. I figured I'd stay in that role, grow within the company, and just enjoy the stability. Then, 2 of my closest friends from college, guys I'd made some of my best memories with, came to me with a business idea. They wanted to open a high-end restaurant in New York, something we used to daydream about back in school. Now, it was becoming a real possibility. At first, I turned them down. Not because I didn't believe in the idea, but because I was afraid to leave the comfort of a secure job. The restaurant world felt risky, and I wasn't sure if I could walk away from the safety I'd built. But the thought stuck with me. Night after night, I couldn't get it out of my head. The more I sat with it, the more I realized if I didn't try, I'd always wonder. I didn't want to grow old thinking about what might have been. The truth is, I didn't want to keep hiding behind the stability of a finance job. So after a lot of late-night thinking and weighing my options, I took the leap. I quit my job and dove headfirst into this dream with my friends. To really learn the business, I took a job as a server at one of New York's top restaurants. I wanted to understand how everything worked from the ground up. I needed to know what the staff dealt with daily so I could one day run my own place the right way. My family had no clue I'd left my job or that I was building something of my own. As far as they knew, I was still showing up to an office in a nice suit, doing finance work. I didn't tell them about the switch because I knew what they'd think. That I was being reckless, throwing my future away. But then, about 3 months in, something happened that forced everything out into the open. My dad called me out of the blue. His voice was ice cold. Turned out my Uncle Robert had snapped a photo of me at work and sent it to him. I'll never forget that day. It was a Saturday afternoon. I was handing out menus to a table when I looked up and froze. Uncle Robert was sitting right there. He stared at me surprised like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. I didn't let it show. I smiled like nothing was wrong and kept going. But inside, I knew this was going to blow up. I finished my shift like always, pretending everything was normal. Barely an hour later, my phone lit up. My dad was calling. His tone was sharp and biting, every word tense. Get home. Now. That was all he said. And I knew this wasn't going to be a normal conversation. That night, I went straight to my parents' place. When I walked in, it wasn't just them. Trevor and his wife Brianna were there too. The air was thick with tension. No one said a word at first. Then my dad, stone-faced, tossed his phone at me. I picked it up and looked at the screen and my heart sank. It was a message from Uncle Robert. Thought Marcus was some big shot. Turns out he's just waiting tables. And you've been going around bragging about his finance job? What a joke. Attached was the photo of me in my server uniform, plain as day. I couldn't believe Robert would say something like that. I always knew he had a jealous streak, but this was a whole new level of low. It wasn't just aimed at me, it was a shot at my parents too. It stung. But I kept my cool. I looked my dad in the eye and said, "This isn't what you think. I'm not some failure, I'm working in a restaurant to learn the business from the inside. I'm building something." I told them everything, the plan with my friends, the dream we were chasing, why I believed in it. I just wanted them to see where I was coming from. But before I could finish, Trevor jumped in. "This is ridiculous, Marcus," he said. "You had a solid job, great pay. Why throw that away? You don't need to play waiter to prove anything." And Brianna chimed in right after. "This is way too much, Marcus. Working in a restaurant like that? It's beneath you. It's a waste of your time." Even my mom, who usually tried to smooth things over, finally cracked. She said, "Even if you do end up owning a place, you're still just the guy serving food. There's no dignity in a job that low," my mom muttered, and each word hit like a blade. My dad didn't say much after that. He just gave me a long, cold stare and said in the flattest voice possible, "If you're not going back to your old job, then don't bother coming back here at all." In that moment, I was done. There was nothing left to argue. I knew I wasn't going back to finance, but hearing that kind of rejection from the people I'd spent my whole life trying to impress, it broke something inside me. That night, the cost of chasing my dream came due. No yelling, no dramatic exit, just silence, judgment, and the cold realization that my own family had cast me out. From then on, I understood that this journey was going to be mine alone. 8 months passed. I stayed on as a server at one of New York's top fine dining restaurants, and between that hands-on experience and my 7 years in finance, I started to see the full picture. I wasn't just learning how a kitchen runs, I was soaking up everything, managing staff, curating an atmosphere, building a brand that guests would remember from the moment they stepped through the door. We named our restaurant The Heritage. It wasn't just meant to sound elegant, it was about honoring tradition, about celebrating the rich culinary values that inspired us from the start. We set up shop in Greenwich Village, a bustling and eclectic corner of the city where food lovers were always eager to try something new. It was the perfect place to launch something bold. Our total starting investment was $750,000. I put in $250,000 of my own savings. My two closest friends, Daniel and Vanessa, pitched in $185,000 each. But even with everything we had, it wasn't enough to cover the entire plan. So, we secured an additional $750,000 loan to handle the lease, renovation, equipment, decor, and our first wave of marketing. That first year was brutal. We leaned on every connection I had from my finance days, inviting old colleagues and clients to dine, taste the food, and spread the word. Daniel, with his PR background, took charge of all things media, press releases, outreach, features. Vanessa, sharp and strategic, worked her magic by connecting us with local events and community initiatives. We crafted a menu that blended elegance with innovation, aiming to give guests more than a meal. We wanted to give them an experience. We hosted jazz nights, wine pairings, seasonal tasting events, and private dinners for loyal patrons. Slowly, people started coming back, not just for the food, but for the atmosphere, the care, the feeling of being part of something special. By the end of that first year, the Heritage found its footing. Our revenue stabilized, the guest list kept growing, and we built a reputation that put us on the culinary map in New York. And we didn't just survive, we stood out. We built something real. By our third year, we'd paid off the entire loan and reclaimed every cent we had invested. That was a big milestone. But the real reward? Seeing our vision thrive. Watching people fall in love with what we built. Still, I didn't feel done. As our popularity soared, new problems cropped up. Weekends were packed to the brim, people were being turned away because we were completely booked. During the holidays, demand skyrocketed. And more, we'd get messages from people across the city who wanted to try our food but couldn't make the trip to our one location. That's when it hit me, we needed to expand. More locations wouldn't just solve the overbooking issue, they'd help us bring this experience to people who lived in different boroughs. When I floated the idea of opening new branches, Daniel and Vanessa stared at me like I'd lost my mind. They were the ones who'd convinced me to start this thing in the first place, but now I was the one driving it forward. They were nervous and I understood why. But in the end, they believed in me. They trusted my vision. And together we took that next step. Fast forward 8 years and the Heritage now has 6 flourishing locations across New York, one each in Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx. Each restaurant has been embraced by its community, becoming a beloved local gem. We didn't just expand a business, we built a brand that brought fine dining closer to the people. But even with all the growth and success, holidays still cut deep. Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. Those are the hardest days of the year for me. Since the night I walked out of my parents' house, there's been nothing. No calls. No texts. No invitations. We live in the same city and yet it's like I don't exist to them. Every time I tried to reach out, whether to invite them to a meal or just a check-in, I got nothing. Sometimes silence. Sometimes a cold, distant response that made it clear I wasn't welcome. It's like they're ashamed of me. Like being seen with me would be some sort of humiliation. They never said it outright, but I felt it in every interaction or lack thereof. I still remember those early holiday seasons, sitting alone, scrolling through photos on social media, pictures of my family smiling together, laughing, celebrating. And there I was, wondering if they ever even thought about me. And yet, year after year, I kept sending money, almost $15,000 annually, to my parents. Maybe a part of me was still holding on. Maybe I thought that if I gave enough, contributed enough, they'd finally acknowledge me. That they'd recognize what I built. That I wasn't just doing okay, I was thriving. I had created something from the ground up, something that mattered, something they should be proud of. I kept telling myself that I was maintaining the connection in my own way, even from a distance. But on holidays, when everything feels warmer and more connected, that empty space where my family should be, it never went away. Still, I held on. I kept sending the money, hoping, deep down, that one day they'd see me. Not as the kid who walked out, not as the embarrassment, but as the man who stood on his own and made something extraordinary. But that hope? It all vanished 3 months ago because something happened that finally opened my eyes. It was a regular weekend. I showed up unannounced at our Brooklyn location, something I do often to make sure standards are met and to stay in touch with our guests. I've always believed that you have to stay connected to the heart of your business if you want it to thrive. While I was back in the kitchen checking on things, one of our servers rushed in, flustered, telling the manager that a guest had just had wine spilled on them and was livid. The manager was ready to step in, but I calmly said, "I've got it. Let's go together." When we walked into the VIP lounge, I stopped cold. There they were. My parents, my brother Trevor, his wife and kids, a handful of other relatives. All of them. Their eyes locked on me, stunned, like they were seeing a ghost. I'll never forget the look on their faces, that mix of confusion, unease, and something that almost looked like panic. It was the first time in years we'd been this close, not just a chance glimpse on the street, but face to face, right here in my restaurant. And in that instant, I knew we had crossed a line. There was no ducking out of this moment. It was going to happen one way or another. As I stepped in, the server began to introduce me. "This is the manager," he started to say. I raised my hand quickly, cutting him off before he could finish. I wasn't ready for that reveal. Not like this. Not in front of them. But the silence didn't last long. Trevor, never one to miss a chance for sarcasm, chimed in with that familiar smirk in his voice. "So this is what that big project turned into, huh? Just a restaurant manager after all." It hit like a punch straight to the gut. I thought I'd steeled myself for a moment like this, but hearing it come from my own brother, it burned. I didn't respond. I could feel the heat rise in my chest, but I kept it buried. Then Caleb, our Brooklyn branch manager, stepped forward, starting to speak. "Sir, this is actually..." Again, I stepped in, calmly and evenly, my tone unwavering. It's been a while. How's everyone doing? No one said a word. Just awkward silence. I didn't expect much else, honestly. That's how they'd always been, unable to see me, acknowledge me, or recognize what I'd become. Even with me standing right there in front of them, nothing changed. After a tense pause, my dad finally spoke. His words, cold and coated with disgust, cut through the room. If I'd known you were working here as a server, I wouldn't have come. This is embarrassing. Then my mom followed, her voice full of disappointment. It's humiliating having a child serve food to strangers. I took a breath, opened my mouth to speak, to try and keep things calm. Dad, Mom, But they both shut me down instantly, raising their hands like judges issuing a sentence. Don't call us that, my mother snapped, her eyes hard as stone. We haven't had a son like you for a long time. Working in a restaurant is a disgrace. It was like the air thickened with every word. I could feel it pressing down on my chest. And I couldn't take it anymore. Years of buried frustration erupted, and I met their eyes, unblinking. If I'm not your son, I said, voice low but sharp, then why do you keep cashing the $15,000 checks I send every year? Isn't that money just as disgraceful? My words landed like a slap across the face. The entire room froze. Then my father chuckled bitterly, a cold, joyless sound. You sent it on your own, he said. We never asked for it. I stared at him, stunned. That answer, dismissive, heartless, pushed me over the edge. Still trying to keep some composure, I asked the one question that had been festering inside me for years. Then tell me, what exactly counts as success to you? What's something you're actually proud of? He didn't hesitate. Without missing a beat, he turned and looked at Trevor, their golden child. Trevor leaned back in his chair, arms folded, that same smug expression plastered on his face. I'd seen it 1,000 times. And then my father said it. Look at your brother. That's success. He's got a smart wife, she's a director. He wears a proper suit, not some cheap server uniform. That's what pride looks like. And right then it all came crashing into focus. No matter what I achieved, no matter what I built with my own hands, I'd always be measured against Trevor. Their praise for him wasn't just about admiration, it was a weapon sharpened to cut me down and keep me in my place. Just as the tension peaked, another voice broke the silence, a deep, confident tone that carried across the room. Apologies for being late. Every head in the VIP section turned. Walking in was a sharply dressed man in a tailored gray suit, composed and commanding. With each step he took, the energy in the room shifted. People sat up straighter, conversation halted. Trevor jumped to his feet like someone had hit a button. He straightened his blazer, flicked his hair back, and strode over to the man with a well-practiced smile. Boss, he said eagerly, we've been waiting for you. The man gave Trevor a polite nod, returned the handshake with a neutral expression, and offered a brief, distant smile. But then his eyes moved past Trevor, right to me. His whole demeanor changed. He lit up, smiled warmly, and stepped directly toward me with his hand extended. Well, if it isn't the owner of the heritage, he said. Marcus, it's been a while. The entire table went dead silent. I didn't flinch. Didn't stammer. I stepped forward, shook his hand firmly, and met his smile. Good to see you, Mr. Pierce, I said. Have you been? This wasn't just anyone. This was Jonathan Pierce, CEO of Pierce and Weiss Financial Group. Trevor's boss for nearly a decade. The man he name-dropped every chance he got. But here's the twist, Mr. Pierce wasn't just a big name in New York finance. He was also one of our most loyal guests at the Heritage. A VIP who had supported us from nearly day one. After we greeted each other, Mr. Pierce glanced around and seemed to pick up on the tension immediately. The air was still thick, the room hushed. And I could tell he noticed everything. Mr. Pierce furrowed his brow slightly and turned to me. I get the sense I walked into something a little tense. Everything all right here? I kept my tone level and professional. Just a small issue, sir. One of our servers accidentally spilled wine on a guest. We've already apologized and offered to make things right. And right on cue, Brianna, who had been loud, dramatic, and demanding just minutes earlier, suddenly morphed into someone else entirely. She slapped on a bright smile and nodded quickly. Oh no, it's fine. Really? Just a tiny accident. I already said it's no big deal. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. I knew exactly what she was doing, backpedaling the moment she realized the man across from her wasn't just another diner, but a powerful name in the city. She was trying to save face. But I stayed quiet, let it all play out. Because in that moment, everyone in the room saw the truth. It was clear who held the real weight in that room and who didn't. After the encounter, I slipped away quietly and went back to my office. I figured that was it. An awkward run-in, some brief posturing, and nothing more. I thought the curtain had closed. But I was wrong. Maybe 20 minutes later, as I sat in the back going over reports, one of our staff members knocked on the door in a rush. "Marcus, your family, they're asking for you at the front. They say they need to talk." I let out a long sigh, stood up, and made my way toward the front register. And I could feel it the second I walked out. The energy had changed completely. The same people who looked at me with contempt earlier were now smiling, overly sweet, all fake friendliness. The kind that hurts your teeth to look at. Brianna spoke first, her voice soft now, almost sugary. "Marcus, about what happened earlier." I wasn't really upset. These things happen. Everyone makes mistakes, right? Then one of the relatives chimed in with a forced chuckle. "We were just saying how proud we are of you. You've done a fantastic job here. This place, it's amazing. Your parents must be beaming." Before I could open my mouth, my dad cut in. His tone was coated in syrup, but the message was clear. It wasn't a suggestion. It was an order. "About tonight's dinner, you should comp the meal. We're family after all." And then, as if they'd rehearsed it, Trevor stepped forward with that puffed-up posture he always wore when he thought he was the smartest guy in the room. "Also," he said, "you should hook me up with a VIP card. The top tier. After tonight, I can bring in some serious clients for you. Good for business." Then he smirked. "And if you're really thinking long-term, maybe it's time we talk profit sharing. Call it a family partnership." I stood behind the register, eyes moving from one face to the next. All of them pretending, straining to smile through the awkwardness, masks slipping out of place. And I laughed. Not a bitter laugh. Not sarcastic. Just free. A deep, honest laugh that came from a place of final clarity. When I stopped, I looked at each of them, my parents, Trevor, Brianna, and I spoke slowly, every word hitting with purpose. "Are you serious? After everything, after the insults, the silence, the years of being treated like I was beneath you, you want a free dinner? A VIP card? A piece of my business?" I paused, then let my voice turn colder. "No. Absolutely not. I don't owe any of you a damn thing." And just in case they didn't get the message, I tilted my head toward the computer monitor next to the register. On the screen, the live security feed from earlier was playing. "I'll tell you what," I added. "If you keep pressing me, I'll send that footage of you mocking me, humiliating me, straight to Mr. Pierce's inbox. Let's see how much he values having a director like you around, Trevor." Trevor's face went ghost white. Brianna clutched her purse like it might protect her. My parents stood frozen, speechless. No more fake smiles. No more superiority. They knew they'd played themselves. Not one of them said another word. They paid their bill, full price, no discounts, no arguments. Then they walked out single file, quiet, heads down, not a single glance back. I stood behind the counter and watched them go. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel sad. I just felt weightless. Like I'd finally put down a burden I hadn't realized I'd been dragging around for years. After that, something became crystal clear. To my family, I only mattered when I had status, when my name was connected to something prestigious. I couldn't help but wonder if I had been nothing more than a server that day, apologizing instead of owning the place, would they have treated me the same? But deep down, I already knew the answer. No, they wouldn't have. Because for them, respect was tied to titles, wealth, appearances. Character? Integrity? Work ethic? Those were never part of their equation. And that's when it finally clicked. Family, real family, is supposed to love you unconditionally. Whether you're wearing a suit or an apron, whether you're flush with cash or barely scraping by, you should still be seen. Still be respected. Still have a place to come home to. I never had that. But I've made peace with it. And more than that, I've learned how to build something better. A chosen family made of people who lead with respect, empathy, and heart. So if anyone out there hears this and has felt that sting, being overlooked, talked down to, made to feel like you're not enough, please listen when I say this. Don't chase their approval. Don't break yourself trying to earn love that should have been freely given. Live by your values. Protect your peace. Because real love, the kind that's worth keeping, it never needs proof. And my story didn't end there. A month after that confrontation, I saw my father's name light up on my phone. I didn't answer. Then my mother called. Still, I stayed silent. Then came the message. Next week is Mom's birthday. Come home, okay? Everyone's hoping you'll be there. I stared at the screen. Read the words over and over. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel touched. All I felt was one question ringing in my head. Do they miss me? Or do they miss what I've become, my money, my name, my success? I didn't reply. And I didn't go. But I did send a gift. A luxury jewelry set $5,000 worth delivered to my mother's door on the morning of her birthday. Tucked inside was a short, final message. I stopped being your son 8 years ago. This is my last gift. I hope you treasure it. No rage. No bitterness. Just a soft goodbye. After that, I blocked every line of contact, phone, messages, social media. No more waiting. No more hoping. I had given them everything I could. But the one thing I needed most? That never came. And sometimes the only way to preserve your last shred of dignity is to walk away. It's been 3 months since then. I thought that was it, we'd part ways for good. But no. They kept showing up. Every few weeks, my parents, Trevor, Brianna, even some distant cousins would appear at the Brooklyn branch, asking the staff if I was around. But I'd already made it clear, if they ever come, the answer is simple. Tell them I'm not here. I'm not hiding. I just don't owe them any more of myself. Word must have gotten around. Some of my extended family, probably after hearing a warped version from my parents, started messaging me, calling me cold, ungrateful. But then there were others. Friends. People who had witnessed it all from the start. They told me I finally did what needed to be done. That I drew a line. That I stood up for myself after years of being taken for granted. I've heard both sides now, accusations and encouragement. And honestly, I don't care anymore. Not about the judgment. Not about who thinks I should have handled it differently. Because for the first time in a long time, I'm living life on my own terms. I'm not sure what the future holds. I don't know if I'll ever share a table with them again. I don't even know if I'll find it in me to forgive. Or if I even want to. Maybe that's something time will decide. Or maybe it won't matter at all. All I do know right now is that I'm tired. Not the kind of tired you fix with sleep. I'm tired in my soul. And sometimes that kind of exhaustion doesn't need an explanation, it just needs distance. It needs you to stop turning around. Stop trying to fix what doesn't want to be fixed. Before I close this chapter, though, I want to turn to you, the one still here, listening to the last words of my story. If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Would you forgive? Would you try again? Or would you choose what I did, walk away quietly and never look back? Leave your thoughts below. I genuinely want to hear them. And if anything in this story struck a chord with you, if it touched even a small part of your heart, go ahead and hit like, subscribe, and maybe share it with someone who needs to hear this today. Thank you for sticking with me. For listening. Goodbye for now. And I'll see you in the next story.